Welcome to People in Legal.
Thank you for having me, David. A delight, a pleasure.
We caught up a long time ago for a really great coffee. This is when you're still doing coffee in Case Note, right? And I saw that on LinkedIn and I thought to myself, I've got to meet the man.
He's a madman, that guy recording those coffee in the Case Note videos. Yeah.
And you always look like you had a great cup of coffee as well in your hand.
I'd like to say I've maintained the standard, I think, David, over the years.
Yeah.
Hopefully we had a nice little piccolo last time we met, or a nice little... So. I'm an old man now, David. I look with great respect, as are a number of us. And I'm afraid it'll be a long black these days, or it'll be a batch brewed. It would have been a nice coffee then. Hopefully nice coffees now too.
Fantastic. So for our audience who don't know you, love to hear more about you and your journey and where you're up to now.
Yeah. So I'm a commercial litigator with a sort of a shareholder disputes, director disputes focus. So sometimes we call it corporate disputes, sometimes we call it co-owners disputes, sometimes we call it partnership disputes. Basically people who own something together and don't get along. And so that means sometimes I'll find myself, as I say, helping directors and shareholders, sometimes partners, capital P, in a technical legal sense of partners, and sometimes kind of trustee beneficiary sort of interactions where there might be some complexity in some of those relationships. I've sort of worked in a couple of, I worked in a suburban firm and then worked in a mintive firm and then sort of a small kind of national firm for a time. I founded my own firm in 2023 and here enjoying chatting people, shaking hands, kissing babies, making friends, doing all the things.
Got some great merch too.
Aha. Yes, David, this is the plan. It's funny. You know this feeling as well as most of, you get to ask yourself that question of what do I want to push into the marketplace? What do I want to push into the world? And it turns out Canterbury jerseys with the firm name.
Same. I saw people wear them last night.
Tell me more. I hear only the occasional whispers of anecdotes, but I'm actually yet to see one in the wild that is not a member of my, immediate circle. I'm yet to see an accidental one in the wild. I saw
someone actually was at a table last night. Someone actually wandered across and had the Gravamen.
Let's go.
So the name, right? Tell me about the name.
Yeah. It's actually a legal word that sort of means the sort of central nub of a dispute. So you and I might be arguing about issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, and you were late and I was early, but you were rude to me, and it didn't at all these kind of issues. But the gravamen is kind of the central part. The central part is, did I comply with clause 8 of our agreement or not? And so the reason I sort of chose that name was to kind of try to express that we don't deal with, we don't prioritize the sort of extraneous, messy stuff. We try to get to the gravamen of the issue. We try to get to the heart of what's going on in, potentially an unhappy relationship between people. I'm told I've done about 15 seconds of research, David, which reflects terribly on me. But I understand the derivation is similar to gravity. So nice. It's sort of the thing that is the weighing down, the kind of central weighty part of a dispute. And so selected that name and hopefully living up to it as we go.
I imagine in the sort of work you do, you're almost like part relationship counselor as well as actually bringing the legal side as well. So you've actually, there's those two aspects of it, I imagine.
I like to say, I'm a corporate lawyer. I'm a very technical, precise black letter lawyer. But so much of it is about relationships, and so much of it is about trying to understand where your client's coming from and trying to understand where the other side might be coming from. Is one of the terms people sometimes use, and I know so little about family law that I don't like using it because I don't fully understand it, but some people call it business divorce, that there's kind of, you and I have been working in a venture together for 15 years, the time has come to separate and we're not getting along well. There's feelings there, right? We both poured our heart and soul into it, and we've got different views about how the future looks. And so, despite the fact I like to say Section 233 of the Corporations Act is where I live, I think it's more accurate to say that there is an element of the personal and hopefully a little bit of the empathic as well.
I guess the interesting thing that I'm thinking of is you get to see the end results of relationships and where they've sort of gone off the rails and things like that. If you could sort of wind back and go to the beginning, what things should people be doing in the beginning to make sure they're on the right track?
If you do your homework up front is kind of the thing. So David, you and I start our business tomorrow and we're very, very excited. We're going to take over the world, and I will deal with all that other stuff later. And a bill for, just to make up an amount for one of our commercial colleagues down the hall who might be exhibiting today, $5 or $10 grand to get a shareholders agreement in place. Get, tick, 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 to get all this stuff. And because we've just started, we go, that's fine, sign it. But of course, if we avoid getting that advice, we save ourselves 10 grand, right? And we can invest that into the business and get the venture going. And 2 years in, we should really do that. But man, I'm busy. I'm flying off to Singapore and you've got to meet the new thing and we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Don't worry about it. And so the more these things kind of stretch, the more distance you get from the sort of original idea you and I might have together. And so the real homework I'd give is, to refer work to my commercial colleagues to say, get it in writing at the start if you can. And if you can't, I think there's almost an element of like, well, probably don't start yet if you can't. Like you want to have the structure in place, because the line I often use, this is very grim, David, and it reflects poorly on me, as most things I say do, but you'll either pay $5,000 or $10,000 to your commercial lawyer now, or you'll pay $250 or $500 to me or someone like me 5 or 10 years down the track. I'd rather, if it was me, do the former. But look, my business is based on the latter. So I'm very relaxed with people not recording these things and, saying, oh, David and I shook hands in 2009. And he said, we'll do it our own way, mate. And I took that to mean such and such. And so we'll argue about it. So the best way to avoid having to deal with me and people like me is to get that stuff in writing, set out from the start.
Yeah. What are the top 3 areas where people actually do fall out? Like, what are the things that the court where there's the friction?
Yep. Money, control.
Yep.
And sort of contact hours, speaking loosely. Are you getting more dividends than me? Am I getting more dividends than you? Are we slow to reimburse you for your travel expenses when you were there at the conference in Hong Kong talking to all the people and then you had to fly to and you paid for that on your credit card and I don't know about that third night. Did you really have to stay at a like, so kind of like finicky money stuff can get into it. Control. It's almost similar to the point I just raised, right? Of like, who is it driving this engine? Who is it who's deciding whether we're expanding into a new space or whether we're tightening up and kind of reinvesting? Who is it who decides that we're winding down towards retirement? Who is it who decides that we're borrowing a lot of money to see what we can do? And the contact hours point, it might sound a little petty, but it often comes up when, you're 5 or 10 years into it and you and I both might have been burning the candle at both ends for, the early years. And then, someone has a child or someone gets distracted or gets a hobby or, someone just has less of an engagement over time. And there's this element of like, well, I think I'm doing whatever made up percent. I'm doing 80% of the work here. I'm the one who the staff come to, who goes to the office every day, who shakes hands, kisses the baby, shows up to the HR meetings and whatever. And you sort of go, yeah, fine, in a few emails a week, or okay, or approved in a few emails a week. I feel like that there might be a bit of an imbalance here in the amount of work being done. So that kind of money, control, and sort of contact hours, if I can frame it that way loosely.
Are there any sort of telling signals? I mean, if people out there are going into a situation where they're 2 mates going to a business together and things, are there any, or people that kind of talking to each other and go, oh, let's get a business together? Any telling signals where you kind of go, this is not going to work out?
The way I tend to frame it is, I don't have an answer to that question specifically, but it's more a bespoke issue of like, David, if you and James are going into business, treat it like a marriage, or at least treat it like a dating scenario. Of like, if there's something, you don't like the way that like, David did that, or you're not too sure about his values, or like, he treated that stuff, man, that certain member of service staff there who dropped off his coffee in a way that doesn't really speak to me and my values. There's an element where you need to treat it not merely as a monetary transaction or an investment with an eye to just return on investment in a Excel spreadsheet numbers game. You need to reflect on how that relationship's going to work. So it's really touchy-feely advice, but there is an element of like, well, how did you feel? What were some of the behaviors exhibited that you like? What were some of the behaviors exhibited you don't like? And I think there is occasionally an under-reliance on those softer signals that tend to kind of calcify and build up over years that I then find myself very happily dealing with, but, dealing with over time.
And I mean, the whole process when things do go wrong and off the rails, that sort of stuff, then what actually happens then? Someone comes along and talks to you and...
Hopefully. So if they come in the door to us, there's sort of one of 3 solutions we can offer if we're needed. Hopefully there's a kind of shot across the bow where we'll say, hey, we're for the goodie, you're the baddie. We're going to sue you for all these things. But hey, we'll buy your shares for X, or you'll buy our shares for X, or here's a strategy. So hopefully That's probably option A. Option B is do that. That sort of fails, but you kind of have a bit of a negotiation and a bit of a back and forth, and you sort of limp towards sometimes something called a mediation or something like that, where you'll still be a little bit grumpy, and there will have been a fair bit of lawyer involvement, but you'll kind of get there in the end of like, yeah, okay, let's agree on this number. Or the third version is we'll go ask the judge to sort it out then. And that's probably in order of like to any potential clients listening. That's also in order of profitability for the law firm, right? You definitely want to avoid option 3, pretty much want to avoid option 2 as well. The best outcome is if you can get in quickly, be like, that number doesn't sound right. How about we up it by 10%? Yeah, okay, that's fine. All right, let's draw up the documents, get out. That tends to be the best outcome we can manage to deliver.
How do you manage with people's unrealistic expectations? I mean, when they've come into you and they've gone, well, actually, you know what, I'm worth all this money. I've done all this work and that sort of stuff in the business and things. And like, you know what, get me a result. Come on, you're a great lawyer.
There's an element where I go, yeah, I might be a great lawyer, although I wouldn't say that about myself. Oh, look, we spoke about the battle rap background. We're meant to brag a bit about it, David, right? But I'd say, look, I may have whatever skills as a lawyer. None of those are skills as a valuer. And so it's not for me to say whether it's worth $1 squillion or 0. It's for me to say 2 things. Firstly, there can be external valuation experts who can tell us. Or secondly, the best valuation of all is an agreed sale price. And so my tiny little law firm, to me, might be worth $50 million. But when you have a look at the 0, you might be like, I'll give you $2.50 for it, James. Both of those things can be true. The only real question is, what do we shake hands on in the middle? And so that management of expectations piece is part of my job. But as well, I could kind of pass the buck to a valuer if things get kind of tight and we get tight into negotiations. We will often find ourselves leaning on experts to share their opinions as well.
Brilliant. Where's the business coming from? Is it accountants and lawyers, other lawyers referring work to you? How's this all happen?
It's probably yes is the short answer to that. It's very much a referral practice. We're really lucky in that and I'm going to make up these numbers, but they feel true to me. About a quarter of our clients or so would be lawyers themselves. So would be in partnership, and I'll use the term partnerships loosely, we'll be in a venture together and we'll try to kind of nut out a dispute. And so you either act for the law firm or the lawyer on that, tends to be. About then half of the practice would be referrals from lawyers. So they might be a referral coming from someone out of their practice area to say, hey, I've got a client, it might be a law firm that does a lot of property leasing and development work, who said, hey, look, one of my big clients has got this shareholder issue. Can you deal with it? And the reason I like our offering is that there's this much law and we only do this much. And so I can say to my developer colleague of like, yeah, well, there's no risk of me looking for the leasing work or the development work or whatever. I just want to do shareholder disputes, and that's all we do. And so feel free to refer your client over and be safe in the knowledge that I'll just do the shareholder work and then I'll get out of the way and say, there you go. Hope that went well. So that's about another, if we go quarter, half, then about another quarter, I market the practice online and also go hand-to-hand combat. You and I are meeting at a conference today, David. So I try to take a kind of internet inflected, sort of reasonably traditional approach to marketing as well, to shake hands, kiss babies, upload the LinkedIn videos,
Absolutely.
Do all the things.
I was going to say, it's great. It's so interesting talking to you. I mean, I think I feel like there's education piece that you could do for people who are actually going into these situations in the first place, where you've seen what's gone wrong, you've seen the other end of it, like winding right back to the beginning. What can they be doing right? And I think that piece really comes from a person that's seen the other end of it.
So much about it's communication. It takes a bit of courage the first time you don't show up to a director's meeting physically and say, hey, can I attend by Zoom? It takes a bit of courage to be like, oh, hey, mate, it's important. Come in. But you don't do that for 18 months. And then your sort of grumpiness about it kind of builds up. And then you didn't join the Zoom last time. And then and so if you hop in the time machine, I guess, and again, this gets a little bit touchy-feely, but if there are going to be differences that arise, you want to kind of, if I can counsel anyone anything, to avoid dealing with me, it's sort of having courage at the time to be like, hey, this is a bit of an issue. I don't want it to become a bigger issue. But my view is all the directors should be doing such and such. Let me know if I'm wrong about, let me know if I need to revise my view. You've got my view. Like, what do you think about it? And I think it's having the courage to kind of embrace the uncomfortable conversations. That's what I advise all my clients not to do. So they've got matters for me to run in court in future.
It's brilliant.
Be cowardly. Yeah. That's the advice.
What a great conversation. James, thank you so much for your time.
Really,
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.